Fake, but with AI in the middle. FAIK. This is the FAIK Files.
Live from the 8th Layer Media Studios in the back rooms of the deep web, this is the FAIK Files.
When tech gets weird, we are here to make sense of it. I'm Perry Carpenter.
And I'm Mason Amadeus. And on today's show, we've got a whole grab bag of fun stuff. I'm very excited. In our first segment, we're going to talk about Sora 2 and their copyright gamble, the sort of opt-in, opt-out chaos, and all the guardrails. Oh man, it's been a mess. Japan is mad.
Oh, it has been a mess. Then we're going to move on to that, kind of in that same flavor, and we're going to talk about the watermarks that are on Sora, the fact that people still don't really realize that those watermarks are there, and they might be believing some of the Sora videos as those leak onto other platforms, and some ways and tips on how to discern what's real.
After that, we're going to switch away from AI for a moment and talk about a big data breach that is affecting Discord. They got hacked, or didn't get hacked. Their vendor that they're blaming for it is like disagreeing. It's a whole thing. We'll tell you all about it.
Yep. Then we're going to look at something kind of AI-ish and not AI-ish at the same time. Somebody put their porn on a government server and they wanted AI robots to have sex.
And they lost access to nuclear codes. So this wasn't just some Joe Schmo guy. It's a big one. Sit back, relax, and hey, do anything you can to avoid uploading your government ID to any website. We'll open up the FAIK Files right after this. So the release of Sora 2 has led to a lot of things. It was a pretty big splash, honestly. I feel like it was as big of a splash as the first Sora, which is pretty impressive. Because usually I feel like we see the first versions of these things come out, huge deal, and then there's kind of incremental, slower upgrades. But Sora 2 was a big leap. And of course, one of the first things people were doing was making a lot of copyrighted content, or a lot of copyright infringing content, like Sam Altman grilling Pikachu, as well as just all sorts of characters from all sorts of different franchises. And we're going to just go through a little bit of the falling out from that because a lot has happened.
Yeah, before we do that, though, you used a word that could be taken in two different ways. When you said grilling Pikachu, did you mean like grilling in an interrogation type of sense, or grilling as far as like on a barbecue?
Man, I can't believe I didn't grab the video to be able to pull up right now. I meant literally Sam Altman slicing open Pikachu and making steaks out of him and grilling Pikachu steaks. So like an instance of copyright use of copyrighted characters that Nintendo probably doesn't want, right? Well, I'll start us here with this. This is from Polygon. OpenAI starts major mess with Japan as Sora cribs Nintendo and anime. And Japan has responded. We'll get into that as well. But starting here, they say, OpenAI's Sora is a copyright nightmare for Nintendo and anime creators. Sora, OpenAI's generative video app, has only been out for a week, yet it has already opened a proverbial can of worms for the artificial intelligence organization. As users gravitate towards styles and figures from pop culture, Sora has generated a ton of media related to major anime and video game franchises. OpenAI seemingly did not implement many measures to protect rights holders against their copyrighted content being used as grist for generative AI, and the mess has prompted OpenAI CEO Sam Altman to issue a statement on the guardrails that Sora users can expect in the near future. And so if you remember when they launched it, they decided to do this sort of opt-out model of copyright infringement, which I thought was baffling from the jump.
Well, I mean, if you're a business, it makes a lot of sense, right? Because you're wanting everything to be as open, as free as possible, and you're wanting that also to kind of match the way that you've done training, because that's the most permissive and it gives you the ability to do the most things. Whether that's like the best ethical decision or not, it's a different story, but you can understand the business reason to do it and the business driver, especially in the way that today's Silicon Valley works.
I was going to say, I have a pet theory, and I'm not alone. I've actually seen it in a couple of different articles I was reading, that it's a very strategic move by them to have a big splash. I mean, it rose to the top of the App Store charts.
Yeah.
Like, if you just say, oh, here's open playground, it's open season, do anything, that's certainly going to get a lot of people in. And as we'll explore later, as they've tightened the guardrails, people are kind of crashing out about it. But I think it was highly strategic of them to just sort of get even more attention.
It was. Well, and if you look at the Silicon Valley playbook, Eric Schmidt, who's really big Silicon Valley guy, is one of the original Google folks, and does a lot of consulting and talking on AI and the defense industry and a whole bunch of things like that. He has some really interesting talking points that are fairly divisive. In fact, in one video that he was giving to a class at Stanford, I believe, that got pulled down after these comments started to go viral. He was basically giving the advice to this group of students that are entrepreneurs and future founders of large companies. He said, the way to do things is you don't ask permission. You just do the thing that you want to do, whether that means grabbing copyrighted information or anything else. You do that thing, and then either you succeed and you'll be able to pay all the legal fees for all the lawsuits that you're doing, or you'll fail and then nobody has any action against you anyway.
Just bankruptcy or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, exactly. So if you do really, really well, you'll make billions and billions of dollars, and then you'll figure out the legal side on the other end of it.
this is the exact gamification of society that leads to sort of the downfall of all good things, right?
Oh, yeah.
It is that mentality.
That's why they ended up having to pull that down, is everybody that was outside of the Silicon Valley bubble, because that does become a mindset that permeates, one realm of society, because they see it work so many times.
Yeah.
So it's normalized in that area. And then people outside of that, the Overton window hasn't shifted into that other segment of society. And so they hear it and they go, what? That doesn't sound right.
Yeah.
And then there's the backlash. And so that video got pulled down. But there's a tons of copies of that out there and people commenting on it.
And I mean, it's like an idiom that I've heard a lot. It's easier to ask forgiveness than ask permission.
And that is true in some cases.
Yeah. And so Sam Altman has been forced to reply, and he's not necessarily asking for forgiveness. He's sort of just being a bit vague. So let's look real quick at the blog from Sam Altman's website, blog.samaltman.com. This is Sora update number 1. And this came out October 3rd, 2025. So this all unfolded very fast. Date of recording is 10/16. So a lot of this unfolded really quick, and I'm working towards the present day here. So this is from Sam. We have been learning quickly from how people are using Sora and taking feedback from users, rights holders, and other interested groups. We, of course, spent a lot of time discussing this before launch, but now that we have a product out, we can do more than just theorize. We're going to make 2 changes soon and many more to come. First, we will give rights holders more granular control over generation of characters, similar to the opt-in model for likeness, but with additional controls. They're saying, we've heard from a lot of rights holders who are very excited for this kind of interactive fan fiction and think this new kind of engagement will accrue a lot of value to them, but they want the ability to specify how their characters can be used, including not at all. We assume different people will try very different approaches and will figure out what works for them, but we want to apply the same standards towards everyone and let rights holders decide how to proceed. Our aim, of course, is to make it so compelling that many people want to. There may be some edge cases of generations that get through that shouldn't, and getting our stack to work well will take some iteration. So there's some acknowledgement there that they cannot really fully control things, and that they want to move into this. And then they acknowledge this bit about Japan, which is going to flesh out the middle of our segment here, because Japan has responded too. They say, in particular, we'd like to acknowledge the remarkable creative output of Japan. We are struck by how deep the connection between users and Japanese content is. I mean, all of the Nintendo stuff, lots of anime. You remember the Studio Ghibli thing from before. And they say, second, and this is the part of the blog post that has really stuck in my craw. Second, we're going to have to somehow make money for video generation. People are generating much more than we expected per user, and a lot of videos are being generated for very small audiences. We're going to try sharing some of this revenue with rights holders who want their characters generated by users. The exact model will take some trial and error to figure out, but we plan to start very soon. Our hope is that the new kind of engagement is even more valuable than the revenue share, but of course we want both to be valuable. Now, what do you read between those lines, Perry?
I think there's a lot there, right?
Yeah.
I think it means we want to tell you the thing that you want to hear, but you're going to wait to see any real payoff if that ever happens. And we see this with companies all the time, right? Every company that is creating a product or set of products has to forecast to the world about like what's their roadmap, and those the roadmaps need to have cool and exciting things. And in this case, they need to deal with some of the negative PR that's happened. And so they needed to entice people to say, yeah, that there's revenue, there's money, there's also equity for perceived wrongs and all that that's going to come. We have no idea what that's going to look like. It's going to take a while to figure it out, which means we could be in status quo for a really long time. They're not promising a timeline on that.
And they're also being very deliberately vague about how they intend to do any kind of monetization. And I, in trying to think, okay, if I was in charge of trying to monetize Sora, what would I do? I mean, showing ads is one thing. They seem to really have this idea that rights holders and like companies like Nintendo and whatnot will want people to generate things with their characters. And I think that is kind of deaf to public sentiment at the moment.
Yeah. I think it comes down to a couple things. If they could build the right kind of guardrails, which is going to make everybody mad that wants to generate those characters, but if they can build guardrails that fit their the personas that they want out, and that also don't create confusion and potentially mislead people about what the character is doing, that actually has that brand behind it and standing behind it, saying this is a Nintendo created story. If there's ways to differentiate those things and still give the joy to creating, I'll use his word, fan fiction with it, then that's good, because people like to put Darth Vader in stuff, and people like to put Pikachu in things. And if Disney sued every time somebody wore a Darth Vader costume and did a skit on video with their friends, that would be a bad situation. So we're just looking at the next iteration of that, where text to video can allow somebody to do those things, but you got to figure out like what's the right way to do it.
What's interesting about what you just said, though, is that I think the shift is they couldn't sue everyone putting on a Darth Vader mask and doing a skit, but they probably would sue someone doing a like full budget production of some Star Wars property with like lights and sets and costumes and everything. Yeah. And now with AI, you can kind of that level of quality.
Yeah. Well, some of it comes down to the perception of the audience. Like if somebody, I think the way that I understand current copyright is you can use trademarked characters in like parody or things like that all day long, because nobody is going to have the perception that it is the real thing. And you can even like tarnish the image of that. You could have Darth Vader doing and saying really stupid things in parody, but you're not really tarnishing the brand because people understand that you're just making a point. I think that AI has to catch up with that. And some of the regulations, we see people making those kinds of distinctions when it comes to deepfakes and things like that. But there has to be the same type of thought on like creative output and what's permissible and what's not, and who gets confused, and what is the creative intent, and then also what is the creative impact.
And fair use is not extremely robust and is still left so much up to interpretation. Like the 4 factors test we've actually talked about on a previous episode. Yep. The one that tends to hold the most weight is like, does this use of copyrighted characters take away monetarily from the rights holder? And so, that is, I think, going to be the thing that holds the most weight here.
And does Pikachu being barbecued take away money from the rights holder? I don't think it does. Right? Somebody would draw that in their sketchbook for fun. If they wanted to spend 20 minutes drawing it on their sketchbook. The difference here is that you can merely have the idea and type the sentence and then see what happens.
And then boom, it's there.
Which is why we have Slop.
Exactly. So Japan has responded. The digital minister, who has several different titles, and I'm not super familiar with, but we're just going to call him the digital minister of Japan. I'm reading here from japantimes.co.jp. Japan has requested that OpenAI, creator of the Sora 2 short-form video app, seek approval in advance from intellectual property owners to prevent infringing on copyright amid growing concerns over a deluge of Japanese anime characters used across the platform. So they want the opt-in model. During a TBS program on Sunday, Digital Minister Masaki Taira said the government has asked OpenAI to change to an opt-in model rather than opt-out model, which requires copyright holders to request that the app operators not use its characters. The digital minister said there needs to be a mechanism where copyright holders will be compensated when their characters are used on the platform. And he also said that the government has asked the company to implement measures allowing copyright holders to request deletion of content, which he said OpenAI complied with. Sam Altman, in his blog post, said a lot of those same things. The state minister in charge of intellectual property strategy, Minoru Kiuchi, said anime and manga are irreplaceable treasures of our country. As a government, we would like to respond appropriately. And so Japan has this whole thing that we should get into in a different episode called the cool Japan strategy. And they want to there's this whole initiative to embrace AI creation and make Japan AI friendly. The way they handle copyright over there is very different too. So there's kind of a lot of minutia to get in here, and I've realized we've run out of time. But basically, Japan is officially, because they are taking note of how much of their cultural media is being recreated in this app. And so OpenAI, I'll real quickly hit these last two. This is from 404 Media. OpenAI tightening the guardrails has led to a lot of users claiming that Sora is bad now. Let's get over it. Boo, this sucks.
Right.
Generating copyrighted characters is a huge part of what people want to do in the app. And now that they can't, and the guardrails are apparently so strict, they're making it hard to get even non-copyrighted content generated, and users are getting pissed. This is from the 404 Media article. People started noticing the changes to guardrails on Saturday, immediately after Altman's blog post. Did they just change the content policy on Sora too? Someone asked on the OpenAI subreddit. Seems like everything now is violating the content policy. Almost 300 people have replied in that thread so far to complain or crash out about the change, saying things like, it's flagging 90% of my requests now. Epic fail. Time to move on. And then this pull quote that they had, moral policing and leftist ideology are destroying America's AI industry. I've canceled my OpenAI Plus subscription, another replied, implying that copyright law is leftist. So the general public use of Sora very much is make dumb brain rot meme using familiar character, haha, send to friends. And I think OpenAI has kind of lofty ideas about what people are going to want from Sora, while at the same time making this TikTok-like brain rot app. So I feel like everything is just kind of all mixed up at the moment.
Yep.
And then, regardless of all of this, they are still plugging along. Sora 2 and ChatGPT are consuming so much power that OpenAI just did another 10 gigawatt deal. This final article is from CNN. OpenAI is partnering with Broadcom to design and develop 10 gigawatts of custom AI chips and systems, a massive amount of power that will use as much electricity as a large city. It's the latest partnership between OpenAI and a high-profile chip company, coming after it struck deals with NVIDIA and AMD as the company seeks to secure more computing resources to serve its growing user base. They say partnering with Broadcom is a critical step in building the infrastructure needed to unlock AI's potential and blah, 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 blah. Basically, it would use as much power as 8 million U.S. households, according to Reuters. It's just another huge 10 gigawatt deal. So the expansion, the scaling continues. The data centers are growing, even as they are not really making money from this. It's I saw an article that I was going to cover, but am not financially smart enough to understand. And so I'm going to hand it to you, I think, about how the AI bubble might be 27 times the size of the .com bubble. And even worse. We can link to it in the show notes if the listeners want to check that out.
Yeah.
I had a hard time following it because I'm not like a stocks and figures kind of brain.
Yeah. And it's a big debate right now on whether it's a bubble in the sense of a real bubble, or if it's because people are having a hard time grasping where the value creation is. Yeah. But you definitely see some value creation with this. I think it would be hard to say that you're not seeing increased productivity in some areas and increased output in some areas. Now, whether all that is good and creates economic value is a different thing, but you have to look at those things, and you also have to look at the cost to society with potential people having a harder time getting jobs and all that other kind of stuff. Also, the other thing that comes into the bubbleification of this, if we were to talk about it, is the number of companies and startups that start to create and proliferate, and then the ones that collapse immediately anytime a model maker changes something. Right. Like they go, oh, this functionality that now 100 companies have built products around, this functionality is now built into the product for free. And then that potentially decimates those companies if they can't pivot real fast. So there's a lot of that. There's a lot of try-fail cycles going on, and a lot of, I think, real economic value creation that's happening, but there's also a lot of where creation is happening, things are also being taken away in other areas, and measuring any of that effectively is really difficult.
I feel like the thing I encounter the most is that kind of parasitic monetization where someone has built a wrapper around some functionality that they have no hand in creating and may not even understand, but are trying to sell as a service. And then, like you said, gets implemented. I see that so much.
And that's super easy to do, right? Because you see the immense functionality that could be done by one of these companies, and for whatever reason, OpenAI or Anthropic doesn't do that thing. And then you go, but wait, there's an API into that. I can create this really cool wrapper around it and make the interface nice. I can make it easy to use. I can do all that. And I can sell it for decent amounts of money at a subscription model. And then all of a sudden, OpenAI or somebody else goes, we now do that. and then you have to reevaluate. It's like, is the value in the fact that the thing is being done, or is it the value more in the fact that I've created a nice wrapper around it that increases the usability and the workflow and has generated reports based on it. So you have to pivot your message too. It's not that we do that; it's that we create value because that thing can be done.
It really feels like a lot of sandcastles built on a beach made of stolen sand, and with copyright being at the center of it, all this copyrighted sand. It'll be interesting to see how this continues to play out. I'm curious if they will decrease how much you can do for free. And to pivot back to the video generating apps and close us out, they are increasing the limits. They just made it so that free users can make up to 15-second videos. Pro users can now make up to 25-second videos. And there's also a new storyboarding features to make more elaborate things. But I would be surprised if the usage continues to be free without higher monetization because of how much money they are bleeding.
Yeah, they're going to have to figure out how to monetize that. And somebody that I listened to, I forget which podcast it was on, said that they did notice that OpenAI had a job posting out for like a director of ads. At some point, there's going to be, whether that's in Sora, I can almost guarantee that they're going to put ads in Sora at some point. And then also OpenAI has this more agentic functionality where it can go do things for you while you're sleeping, and it presents everything in like these card formats. And so it would be really easy to slip an advertisement card in with those things too. So, when you're hemorrhaging that much money and you're selling essentially either free services or $20 a month services, and people are pulling much more money out of that in compute, you got to figure out how to offset it. And ads is sometimes the only way to do it. But then there can be a slippery slope there. We'll have to see how they do that.
There's good and bad ways to do ads, for sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So a lot remains to be seen. But aside from the monetary side of things, we should talk about the societal side of things. In our next segment, we're going to be talking about slop, watermarks, and deception. Yeah?
Yeah. So the slopification of AI, which I think becomes self-slopifying a lot of times, and then how we start to deal with that as far as how we think about truth and trackability and what can be done.
Stay right here, and we'll be right back with all of that.
So I wanted to talk a little bit. This is kind of extending the Sora conversation even more, but it touches on something that we also saw with like Google VO3. Once people started really kind of getting into that and seeing what's possible, they started creating these viral social media clips. And those social media clips often were trying to reflect something that was going on in real society. Like I think at that point, one of the ones that we talked about was somebody who was doing essentially like a vlog of a National Guard serviceman as they were in LA during some of the stuff there when they were first sent.
Yeah.
We're seeing the equivalent of that now with Sora and the National Guard and the military being sent to Portland. And similarly, people are seeing those on TikTok and they're believing that they're real.
Man.
And so I wanted to show you one, and then we can talk about like the effect of it and some of the interesting things that go with that.
All this AI stuff could not have come out at a more sociopolitically worse time. Man.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let me share my screen here, make sure that I'm getting the right one. There we go. So anybody that's been seeing some of the news has seen that, like, when Portland does demonstrations, they do demonstrations kind of in a party atmosphere a lot of the time. And so you have people dressed up in these big inflatable costumes. And one of those in real life was this person dressed in a frog inflatable.
Yeah.
And they walked up to the National Guardsmen and they were basically just egging them on, but they were like dry humping the air in the frog uniform.
Yeah, just being ridiculous.
Which was really funny to see. But then somebody took the idea of that and they went to Sora, and there's all these memes now of people in these inflatables in Portland doing things both kind and unkind to the National Guard that are there. So here's one.
Easy there.
That's the flower, man.
All right.
Peaceful.
Got it.
So
that was it.
Yeah, the frog walks up and gingerly places a flower onto the gun of this National Guardsman. And this is, man, SORA'S videos are really, really believable. It does not look like AI. Like, the only thing is that the inflatable has an opening, which wouldn't be possible. But
right. Yeah. But you also could say that maybe there's a screen there that for some reason just didn't come across. I'm trying to capture and pause on the very last part, because this is what you see people comment on. So the flower gets placed, and then, like, you see this little smile from the guardsman.
Yeah.
There. His, like, mouth turns up and he acknowledges it. And so that starts to go really crazy in the comments, right? I like the part where he actually broke character and actually smiled the acceptance of some sort of peace. Some people are saying, pretty sure this is AI. You can absolutely know this is AI, because if you look at all at the video,
there is a Sora
logo.
Yeah,
there's a Sora watermark that is jumping around, which means this was created on the Sora platform. So absolutely, you know that it's AI, but a lot of them smile. Don't let these Karens blame it on AI.
Wow, somebody really commented that. Unbelievable.
Yep. And then some people are also just saying, no, he's just doing his job. They don't agree where they are, but they will absolutely follow the contract that they had signed. Other people still saying it's AI. He feels
bonita now.
The smile.
Okay.
Yep. His smile shows that humanity will win. Our National Guard troops do not want to be there.
Gosh.
Some other people talking about it being AI.
But there's...
but then others... Yeah, I mean, it's about... I think 60 to 70% of people that look like they believe it's true.
Yeah. And then there's also, you get people sort of in this middle zone where they're like, even if it's not true, the sentiment is something I agree with. Yeah. Man.
Yeah. Somebody else saying this is de-escalation. We shouldn't be fighting each other. It's the people way higher than us that are making us all fight. Man. That's why I freaking love Portland. Keep it weird. I watched this 10 times just to see the smile at the end. It melted my heart. He approves of the peace. He reminds me of Kent State, where they put flowers in the barrel of the gun. This is so sweet. I bet most of these guys do not want to be there.
Gosh, dude, this is depressing.
Yeah, that dude is trying so hard not to laugh. So, only the initiated understand that little Sora watermark, which is a big problem, right?
Yeah.
If you follow AI... you know that watermark means something, because you know that Sora is a social media platform. If you don't follow AI, then that could be any platform.
Yeah. I mean, everything's littered with watermarks, right? We kind of all ignore them habitually anyway. Like, it's to the point that people use watermarked things as memes, in various contexts.
Right.
Like, so yeah, you won't notice that if you're not aware of it. The video you just showed was not on Sora, right? That was someone had posted it.
No, that was
TikTok.
on TikTok. Yeah. And so anything created on an AI only platform will leak off that platform and onto other social media platforms.
Yeah.
So that's the reason why they put the watermark there in the first place, is so that if you download it and upload it to YouTube or TikTok, that people can trace that back and go, oh, that's a Sora video. So that's OpenAI trying to be transparent about it. But the problem is we don't have an aware population.
Yeah.
The other problem is, as I've just opened in this tab, is that we have a ton of Sora watermark removers right now. And they all work, to a certain degree. but I've used some that are actually really good right now. And so it's super easy just to remove that watermark entirely. So if I wanted to create a piece of disinformation, I could go to Sora, I could make a very believable video. I could then run that through a watermark remover, and then I could post that to TikTok or YouTube or Facebook or wherever. So that's overly easy to do.
I was just going to say it didn't take long. I'm not really surprised because, of course, it didn't take long, but like right away, people have just been making these tools, to take away the watermarks.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, anytime somebody puts a visible watermark on somebody, on something, other people want to remove that for both real reasons and for bad reasons, right?
Yeah.
If I'm making something creative, I don't want that tarnished by a watermark. If I'm creating something deceptive, I don't want that tarnished by a watermark. So it can live on both sides. The other interesting thing is because OpenAI is wanting to be transparent, they did put that watermark there. The other thing that they did, and I'll share my screen one more time, is they embedded what's called a C2PA credential. And that is the Coalition for Content Provenance and Authority. We mentioned them a couple times. So
authenticity.
C2PA is, Coalition for Content Provenance and Authenticity. This is a bit of metadata that can get added to any file that shows essentially where it was created and allow the tracking as things get changed, like in Photoshop and all that, because Adobe will maintain that chain of, essentially a change log within media that gets generated there. Not everything does, though. Sometimes you can make changes and you can accidentally keep the metadata that's there. Other times you can intentionally strip that out. Other times a vendor may make something that allows you to change a file, and then they might save it as a new clean file that then unintentionally removes any metadata. And so the fact that OpenAI is putting these C2PA credentials in, again, gives you the ability to detect that, but only if the person that is uploading that to TikTok or wherever, only if they're not intentionally trying to strip that out as well. So this helps a little bit, but it also isn't a full solve.
I mean, the tough thing with anything that exists only digitally is that kind of provenance, right? There is nothing that is, irascible is not the right word. What is there's nothing that is truly permanent that you cannot somehow change in software. It's just data. So like there's no perfect initiative that can fix this as far as I can think of.
Yeah. I just wanted to let listeners and viewers know, if you do want to check that out, you can go to c2pa.org, because if you got like a news crew that's creating information, then adding that C2PA credential from the very beginning can help that get tracked over time. But we also have to know that if I'm a bad actor, I could add a C2PA credential into something. So this helps with like crimes of convenience or people that are merely curious that don't understand the technology and don't want to get deep into it. You can also go to verify.content.authenticity.org and you can drag a file into that. So if you were to find a file online and want to know if there's a C2PA credential embedded in that, you can upload that there. Again, I've downloaded things straight from Sora and uploaded them to this, and it finds the credentials there. I've run those through other systems that will both intentionally strip out watermarks or unintentionally change things. Like if you wanted to add cool captions and you go to Descript to do that, Descript seems to accidentally remove the C2PA in this when you do the export. So know that that's a thing. All that to say, if you really, really want to get into this, there's a whole bunch of stuff you could look at to understand whether something may or may not be legitimate. And there's a really good article from the Global Investigative Journalism Network, and it's called A Reporter's Guide to Detecting AI-Generated Content. We don't have time to go through this whole thing, but it is good.
I poked through this as well, and they talked about, similar to the TED Talk we shared in our Discord. I don't remember if we shared it on the show, and I wish I could remember his name off the top of my head, but he talks about looking at
Hani Farid.
Hani Farid.
Yep.
He talks about looking at the Fourier transform of a generated image and looking at patterns in essentially the lowest levels of noise in there.
That's a big piece of it.
And that's referenced in this article too. Yeah. This is a very good one.
It is. Yeah, this one, we have to realize too that the state of the game will change over time. So a lot of some of these points that they point out kind of work for some of today's technology and yesterday's technology. What we see is that these models are improving so fast that even many of the AI detectors that were pretty good at detecting voice a couple months ago will come up and show that a voice is authentic if it's generated with a current tool, like 11 Labs version 3. Tends to come up as being legitimate in most of the detectors that I've tried. Even the Sora 2 audio, as weird as that sounds to our ears, that comes out as legit in most of the detectors.
Really? Interesting.
Actually, when I listen to a voice in VO3 from Google or a voice in Sora 2 from OpenAI, there's a distinctive character that I can hear in it. Like in VO2, there's this like strident... it's like almost a piercing hum that goes throughout it. It's hard to describe, but once you hear it, it's there forever. And then in VO2, there's like a crunchiness. It almost sounds like two voices merging together.
It is. In Sora, they have a really big problem with stereo phase coherence in the generated voices.
It is.
You can actually, not to give any tips to anyone trying to make it sound more believable, but if you cut it down to mono, either grab one channel or summing them both will sound weird, but if you grab one channel, it'll sound more just like noise reduction artifacts or like digital compression artifacts, because it is the stereo coherence is weird, and it creates that feeling of like two simultaneous voices because it's not perfectly aligning them essentially in the stereo field. Yeah,
that's what it sounds like. It sounds like there's kind of two voices at the same time, or somebody's trying to overcome a big frog in their throat sometimes.
Yeah.
Like there's just like gravel in people's voice that don't have gravel. But it tends to show as legit in many of the detectors that I've run it through. So we're not going to go through all these, but this article lists 10 different things to potentially check, from looking at some of the online detectors to things like looking at when somebody's figure is too symmetrical or too perfect, when perfect becomes the tell, which is an interesting way of thinking about it. And there's a lot of detail for each of these checks that they tell you to look at. Also looking at perspective in the way that things should come together at their horizon point. That's something that Hani Farid talks about a lot.
Yeah.
And something that their tool, Hani's tool, Get Real, allows you to investigate. So that's really good.
They do mention too that a lot of the visual tells are things that will become outdated. And so like it's important to keep up to date on those. Yeah.
Yep. Pixel analysis, that's starting to get into some of the like the hot spots that are there. Let's see what else is here. Voice and audio artifacts. I think those are really going to start to go away over time. So that category 4 here, I think, starts to go to the wayside. Category 5, temporal and contextual logic, obviously.
Yeah. And again, like all of this is just the cat and mouse game. This is going to continue on and on as these systems get better and better at different things. This article is a very good entry point, though, into a lot of like detailed methods that you can use currently. It'd be interesting to see how long all of it holds up.
Yeah, I think it's all of this is a ticking time bomb, right? This is the arms race. They've got 6 is behavioral pattern recognition when AI gets humans wrong. This is something any disinformation artist is going to try to solve for, though. They're going to see the flaws in things, and then they're going to find creative ways to move your eye away from those. So it's good to know that those are there. These help people that are looking at things forensically, but they don't help the casual viewer.
Yeah.
Intuitive pattern recognition, obviously, does that feel like it lives up to the way the real world works or the way that real people work? And I had said 10 things. There's only 7 things here. So forgive me. You can make up those other 3 in your head.
Yeah,
Go
just
for it.
have AI generate the other 3.
Ask ChatGPT. It'll be all good.
That is a really good resource. I'm glad that someone put that together, especially as newsrooms and like smaller journalistic outfits are struggling with the onslaught of generated content and news stories and everything.
Fun times.
Fun times indeed. And amidst all of this AI stuff, there's still the normal cybersecurity bad actors doing bad things. In our next segment, we're going to talk about a good old-fashioned data breach that just affected a lot of Discord users. Stick around. So Discord has been the victim of several different data breaches over the years, but most recently, Discord has had another data breach, a pretty big one, where the hackers claimed that 1.5 terabytes of data and 2 million government ID photos have been extorted. The article that I'm going to share here is from October 9th. This is from Cybersecurity News, but we have a couple of other sources to jump to in here as well. The popular communication platform Discord is facing an extortion attempt following a significant data breach at one of its third-party customer service providers with Zendesk. Threat actors claim to have stolen 1.5 terabytes of sensitive data, including over 2.1 million government-issued identification photos used for age verification. While Discord confirms the breach, it disputes the scale of the incident, saying that approximately 70,000 users had their ID photos exposed. The breach happened on September 20th, 2025. It did not compromise Discord's own servers, but instead targeted its customer support systems managed by a third-party vendor. This article names Zendesk, but we will go on to see a company called 5CA mentioned. The attackers reportedly gained access for 58 hours by compromising the account of a support agent employed by an outsourced business process provider. This notorious cybercrime group is known as Scattered Lapsus Hunters, SLH. They've claimed responsibility, taunting the company publicly while attempting to secure a ransom. Now, I have an article where Bleeping Computer actually got to speak with the hackers in depth, and we're going to get to that in a moment.
Okay.
Have you heard of Scattered Lapsus Hunters, Perry? That's not a group I'm aware of.
Not as much. I'm very familiar with Scattered Spider. The ones that took down MGM and several other large-scale ones. But this seems like essentially the same methodology.
Same kind of thing. Discord pointed the finger at 5CA, a company that they had outsourced to for customer support. And 5CA put out a statement not that long ago contradicting that. So here's the thing from 5CA's own website. We are aware of the media reports naming 5CA as the cause of a data breach involving one of our clients. Contrary to these reports, we can confirm that none of 5CA's systems were involved, and 5CA has not handled any government-issued IDs for this client. All our platforms and systems remain secure, and client data continues to be protected under strict data protection and security controls. We're conducting an ongoing forensic investigation into the matter, collaborating closely with our client as well as external advisors, including cybersecurity experts and ethical hackers. Based on interim findings, we can confirm the incident occurred outside of our systems and that 5CA was not hacked. There's no evidence of any impact on other 5CA client systems or data. Our preliminary information suggests the incident may have resulted from human error, the extent of which is still under investigation. We remain in close contact with all relevant parties and will share verified findings once confirmed. So this statement was updated as of October 14th, 2025. So just a couple days ago.
And that's an interesting phrase they put at the end, right? So they made big claims about their systems not being breached and nothing going wrong. There's no hacking. And then their last paragraph is that they're confirming an incident.
Yeah.
And they're saying that this may have happened through human error. Human error is the gateway for most hacking and the most exploitation of systems. So they're actually arguing against themselves.
I feel like it's a bit of them trying to cover their butt by saying we weren't hacked per se. We had
nobody made it through a technical guardrail. Somebody went around all of that. It's still being hacked. Like that person penetrated your system no matter what.
That's got to be pretty frustrating for you to read, right?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, it's also, I think, step one in the scapegoating of somebody.
Yeah.
Some poor help desk person that received a phone call and got tricked into doing something is probably going to lose their job because the company can point to that. But in reality, if calling up a help desk person makes your company that vulnerable, then there's probably other processes that should have been in place. In the same way that if somebody clicking on a link in a phishing email doesn't show that that person is the weakest link or the reason that your company got hacked. No, your secure email gateway didn't catch the phishing email on the front end. them clicking the link and kicking something off means that you didn't have the right kind of endpoint protection platforms in place. You didn't have application sandboxing. You didn't have the right network segmentation. You didn't have the right protection around the data that's there. So that person's just one link in the chain, but because you can point at it and say Bob did it, they become the ultimate scapegoat.
It belies sort of deeper problems and like a culture of pointing fingers, right? Sort of. So yeah. It's just the blame game at work. Not super great. So this will move to this fascinating article from bleepingcomputer.com, who got to speak directly with the hackers. We'll start here with Discord's statement to Bleeping Computer, where they said, first, as stated in our blog post, this is not a breach of Discord, but a third-party service. And they say, second, the numbers being shared are incorrect, part of an attempt to extort a payment from us. Of the accounts impacted globally, we have identified approximately 70,000 users, so they reiterate that statement, which may have had government ID photos exposed, which our vendor used to review age-related appeals. So Discord also doing a bit of distancing and finger pointing. Here is where Bleeping Computer had a conversation with the hackers. I'll just read directly. In a conversation with the hackers, Bleeping Computer was told that Discord is not being transparent about the severity of the breach, stating that they stole 1.6 terabytes of data from the company's Zendesk instance. According to the hackers, and again, remember, they also have an incentive to inflate their own works, but they say they gained access to Discord's Zendesk. I can't say Zendesk. Discord's Zendesk instance for 58 hours beginning on September 20th. However, the attackers say the breach did not stem from a vulnerability or breach of Zendesk, but from a compromised account belonging to a support agent employed through an outsourced business process outsourcing provider. That would be 5CA. That's the human error they were referring to. As many companies have outsourced their support and IT help desks, they have become a popular target for attackers to gain access to downstream customer environments. The hackers allege that Discord's internal Zendesk instance gave them access to a support application known as ZenBar that allowed them to perform various support-related tasks, such as disabling multi-factor authentication and looking up users' phone numbers and email addresses. Using access to Discord's support platform, the attackers claim to have stolen 1.6 terabytes of data, including around 1.5 terabytes of ticket attachments, over 100 gigabytes of ticket transcripts. The hackers say it consisted of roughly 8.4 million tickets affecting 5.5 million users. 580,000 contained some sort of payment information. And the threat actors themselves acknowledged to Bleeping Computer that they are unsure how many government IDs were stolen, but they believe it's more than 70,000, as they say there were approximately 521,000 age verification-related tickets. They also shared a sample of the stolen user data, which can include a wide variety of info, including email addresses, Discord usernames, phone numbers, partial payment information, date of birth, MFA stuff. The payment information for some users was allegedly retrievable through Zendesk integrations with Discord's internal systems. The hackers want $5 million in ransom. They later stepped it down to $3.5 million. They've been engaged in private negotiations with Discord between September 25th and October 2nd. Discord ceased communications. Released a public statement about the incident. The attacker said they're really angry about that, and now they're going to leak the data publicly if an extortion demand is not paid. Bleeping Computer reached out again to Discord, and they did not receive any answers beyond the statement that I read earlier in the article. So this saga is still kind of ongoing. I think the truth obviously lies somewhere in the middle. I feel like the hackers definitely stole more than 70,000 IDs.
Probably so. Yeah, I mean, it's this weird kind of supply chain type of thing too. So, right, it's Discord to Zendesk to this 5CA. Was that it?
I think the chain of connection goes, Discord hires 5CA for support. 5CA uses Zendesk's platform.
So then that's like the primary vendor that they're doing business with, and everybody uses Zendesk. So Zendesk is kind of more of an innocent party in this, I guess. 5CA is saying that they didn't get breached, but if they did, it was Bob. What this shows from just a standard cybersecurity perspective is that third-party risk management is something that we've been talking about for a long time.
The McDonald's hack.
Yeah, Target hack, way back in the day from the HVAC vendors. Yeah. I mean, it just shows how long this has been a problem. And everybody's been talking about it. Everybody's been building process around it. Everybody's been auditing around it. It's just hard to know how long the chain is and how much that your diligence needs to transfer 3 and 4 channels down the chain. You're supposed to hold them to the highest standards on security and auditability and everything else. And so if they messed up that bad and had that bad of a spill, then what it means is that they probably weren't fully transparent in the first place about, or they were unknowledgeable about their own vulnerabilities. So either they were overly optimistic or they were overly ignorant.
And there is the potential here for like a good old fashioned honest mistake too, right? On the behalf of someone getting unlucky, being the one who clicks the link, because it could very well have just been that things lined up just right. I mean, you have to, if you're going to provide support, you can't not have access to all sorts of these intricate systems, but there should have been probably some more things standing in the way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that raises one more question, though. So with something like identity verification or anything where there's lots of personally identifiable information that's involved, how long do you actually need to keep that and store that?
Right. Yeah.
Because some of this could potentially just be a check, a verification going, yep, that checks out. And then you expunge that and you purge that.
That's the other thing kind of at the heart of this that I had tried to make a mental note to remember, but then forgot was, why are these places storing these things? You would really assume they would get rid of them. Like when recently I had to do a Google film your face thing to secure one of my accounts. And it was like, this video will be deleted 72 hours after upload and all of that. And like,
you're like, that makes sense.
Yeah. That's why the opening joke for this episode was avoid putting your government issued ID on any website if you can, because obviously they're not getting rid of them.
Yeah, which is just a huge lax. I would like to, if somebody knows why they would want to keep that around after the fact, that would be great to know from a business perspective. I think, though, that if the main reason for doing this is just a simple one-time, yes, that person is or seems to be who they say that they are, we're going to go ahead and green flag this, then you probably don't need to keep that on file. In fact, from a business perspective, you might want to minimize your risk by explicitly expunging that.
Yeah. It's bizarre that they didn't, apparently. So yeah, if anyone who is receiving this audio into your brain knows why that might not be the case, please reach out to us. hello@eighthlayermedia.com.
Because you can sell it to the highest bidder.
Yeah,
that's the reason to do it.
I guess, but surely you can't sell people's government IDs, right? I would think. I mean, I'm not well versed.
No, that never happens.
Yeah. Anyway.
No, that does happen all the time.
If you are one of the accounts affected, Discord says they will be emailing you from noreply@discord.com. So if you are one of the people affected.
Which means that they don't want you to talk back to them.
Yeah, no reply. Just keep an eye out for an email, I guess, especially if you have uploaded an ID to Discord, especially if you pay for Discord's features. If you don't, I don't really think you have much to worry about. Necessarily. I mean, I can't say that conclusively, but it definitely, if you've uploaded an ID and if you've paid for Discord, keep an eye on your email. Yeah. So that's that. Oopsie doops.
Sounds good.
Whoa.
Yep.
And might I add, oh no.
Yeah. We're going to look at another oopsie in just a minute. Somebody that was a little bit sloppy with their own records keeping and accidentally put 183,000-ish porn images on a government server for the Department of Energy.
And lost their access to the nuclear codes. Oh, boy.
All because they wanted to make robot porn.
Get ready. This next one's a doozy. We will be right back.
Okay, so from accidental sharing story to accidental sharing story, we have another cybersecurity awareness themed story. This is good because it's Cybersecurity Awareness Month. This one gets a little bit personal. And I love the headline. This is man stores AI generated robot porn on his government computer, comma, loses access to nuclear secrets because every action has a consequence. And then it goes on. It says, man who works for the people overseeing America's nuclear stockpile, because we have to talk about like the stakes of the game, right?
Yeah.
A man who works for the people overseeing America's nuclear stockpile has lost his security clearance after he uploaded, I said only 183,000 in our last segment, 187,000 pornographic images to a Department of Energy, DOE network.
Oh my gosh.
Like you do.
Yeah, like you do. I mean, I have heard stories of people doing a similar thing. Weirdly enough, I have heard stories of people I know who like worked at a place where somebody was running like a porn site off of a company computer. But this is the Department of Energy also.
Yeah. Yeah. So from all accounts and from interviews with this guy, this was a total accident.
How?
So he was trying
to... How do you accidentally upload... Oops, I accidentally dragged my 187,000 pornographic images from my porn folder on my laptop to my company server.
He pulled it into the wrong folder, I think.
You're kidding
the way
me.
that it works out. No. So as a man who works for people overseeing America's nuclear stockpile has lost his security clearance after he uploaded 187,000 pornographic images to a DOE network. As part of the appeals process... and an attempt to get back his security clearance, the man told investigators he felt his bosses spied on him too much and that their interrogation over the porn snafu was akin to the Spanish Inquisition.
Okay, so this guy's funny at least. What do you mean?
As you look through it, though, the reason, so this guy is giving reasons for why he was doing.
Okay.
He was talking about being chronically depressed. He has mental issues and has been in therapy a lot. So he's not the most like stable, trustworthy
he's having a hard time
in this.
Yeah.
He's having a hard time. And has a lot of that like in his file. It says he was attempting to back up his personal porn collection.
Whoa.
His goal was to use the 187,000 images collected over the past 30 years.
Wow.
He's
Honestly,
been at it for a while.
Now I'm impressed. I have pivoted. Now I'm impressed.
There is a lot of spank in that spank bank.
Yeah, for real. That's insane. Who does that?
187,000 images.
Like collecting that in the first place is strange. Like most people, I think, just get it on demand. But over 30 years... That's a dedication. I can understand that, okay, maybe there are some qualities of this person that make him a good government employee. Dedication and commitment.
He's like a collector, an auditor, he probably categorizes and creates tagging and metadata and everything else
Probably
along
super
with this.
organized, yeah.
Well, until you do this, right?
Yeah.
So he's collected this over the past 30 years. He was wanting to use it as training data for an AI image generator.
Okay.
So that is, we have this huge corpus of material that then now you've been hearing about how large language models and image generation models train on large corpuses of data. Mm-hmm. He's looking at this folder. He's looking at his computer, looking at his folder, looking at his computer. And he's going, if I take this and put it over here, I wonder... I can create the most personalized to my personal taste image collection in the world. I'm assuming what he was thinking.
I want to come out front and just say inherently, I don't have a problem with this. I don't want to come off as being like sex negative at all. Get off, King. I don't care. But the thing is like, there's a lot of just inherent funniness in this. And then obviously this is a pretty bad up.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Well, and again, his mental state is very fragile.
Yeah.
He says he's had depression he struggled with since he's a kid. During the depressive episode, he felt extremely lonely and isolated and started, there's scare quotes around this, playing with tools that made generated images as a coping strategy, including, in more scare quotes, robot pornography. According to the DOE report on the incident.
Does that just mean AI generated, or does that mean like of robots?
I'm assuming it means of robots, because otherwise they would just say AI generated pornography.
Probably, yeah. I feel like that's...
So I'm thinking like there's lots of pistons and lubrication and sprocket play and things like that.
Yeah. Don't worry, babe. I've got an adapter handy. Yeah.
Don't touch that dongle.
Hey, I'm so sorry, N2K, for this segment. Sorry, Cyberwire. Our apologies.
Yeah. Fueled by the depression, I'm not laughing at this guy's depression. It's just the awkward situation that this is, right?
Oh, man, the sinking feeling the moment after he must have done
Speaking of
this.
syncing, if we take that to mean synchronization, he meant to back up his collection and create a base of training to make better robot pornography.
Right.
Maybe he is just using robot as AI generated. I don't know. He uploaded it to the government computer by accident, is what he says. He didn't realize that what he'd done until DOE investigators came calling 6 months later to ask why their servers were now filled with thousands of pornographic images.
Oh, man.
The individual thought that even though his personal drives were connected to his employers, that they were somehow partitioned, which would kind of make sense. You know, if you connect your personal G drive to a system, you might think that there's some kind of segregation that's there. But I guess there was some synchronization that happened, and now that got pulled over and synchronized with government-owned file systems.
I mean, I've worked a job where I had a company-issued laptop, and that laptop had access to internal company servers and things, and I could like tunnel in from home and whatnot, all that standard fare stuff. I don't know how I would have ever accidentally put anything onto that server. Like, what level of like...
I'm guessing there's some kind of weird synchronization rules
probably
that had to be there. Like maybe it was like in the equivalent of a Google Drive or a Box Drive, and he moved that file to his desktop for a second, and then his desktop automatically synchronizes with the DOE servers.
Oh man!
So there's that kind of possibility, right? So there's always the chance that you're taking something from an unmanaged drive or partition, moving that to a managed one, and then that kicks off synchronization. So I'm assuming that it was something like that was going on. He reported that since the 1990s, he had maintained a giant compressed file with several directories of pornographic images, which he moved to his personal cloud storage drive so he could use them to make generated images. It was this directory of sexually explicit images that was ultimately uploaded to his employee's network when he performed a backup procedure on March 23, 2023.
Okay,
Still doesn't really talk about like the why and how.
No, but
it's talking about that this was a personally managed, but I think it was similar to what I mentioned. It's like pulling it to his desktop or a synchronized drive within his government computer.
Now I understand what you were saying. Yeah. See, probably if you have Google Drive for desktop installed, for instance, it creates a fake drive that is really just a folder on your computer. If you were to then back up and sync your computer, I feel like that folder would get sent over and bada bing, bada boom. Although G Drive does do some fragmentation stuff. It probably wasn't necessarily Google Drive, but still, I could, Okay.
No, I don't think it's Google's fault. I think it's just he moved that to a folder system that was managed by the government facility.
Woof.
And that kicked off a synchronization. So, I mean, the good news is that now there's 2 backups of this.
Perry, I think you just said it kinked off a synchronization.
Kicked off a synchronization. So now I think he's got 2 backups wherever he ultimately put it, and then the one that's by the government. And so that's now propagated to like several different systems now. So this is living on in perpetuity, as they would say. I want to focus on like the human side of this for a second, because this gets to like why this happened, as he's deflecting a lot of blame in this and saying that he's under, severe persecution because of it. But this is talking about like the mental struggle. Yeah. That he says he told the DOE psychologist he should have realized he'd backed up his personal porn collection to the DOE network. But here's the quote: he was not thinking multiple steps ahead or considering the consequences because at the time he was so depressed.
Yeah. I mean, that's real, right?
I think he just got tunnel vision. Like this is something for whatever reason, kicked off enough curiosity or hope or dopamine flood that he was doing that, and he wasn't really thinking about any kind of long-term consequence other than the fact that he might be able to make this, synthetic AI porn factory.
To get real for a minute, like the brain fog that comes with being depressed is really intense. And like, I really do empathize and like understand that, like, I'm sure he wasn't trying to do anything malicious. Like he wasn't trying to cause any problems, really. I mean, there may be, I can't say that for sure, because like who knows about where those images came from, what those images were of, and then using those to generate other images. There's ethical stuff there, but I don't get the impression this person was acting with malice and that they were just acting thoughtlessly in a depressive fog. And like that sucks. That's real. My heart goes out to this person on a human level.
Yeah. Now to clean that up a little bit. So he didn't think it was very wrong. He's also not really thinking about long-term security because he asserted that his employer was spying on him a little bit too much, which I'm guessing was the audit trail that came back to haunt him. That's standard things that every especially if somebody with access to nuclear stuff, you got to assume that employee monitoring is a big thing. Yeah. So your employer is not spying on you a little bit too much. They're doing the due diligence that they're required to do to manage that facility and those systems.
I should have said my heart goes out to people suffering from depression insofar as that makes life exponentially harder. This guy, that does belie a bit of a bad attitude.
It shows like the compounding effect of depression, though, right? Yeah. Is that he feels very, very small and he feels like everything else is against him over that. And so that gets to this other thing is like, this feels like to me, the Spanish Inquisition is what he's saying.
Yeah.
And it's not, it's due diligence around systems and potential infection. Lots of, especially if you've been collecting porn over your entire life, many porn sites are known to be like just harbingers of malware and bad stuff. And
especially
so
back then.
Propagating that to a government controlled file system is not necessarily a great thing to do.
No.
So it's not the Spanish Inquisition, but it would make you feel, I think, very, very small and very, very afraid.
Yeah. Like this sucks. Yeah. This sucks to go through. And so
in these situations, he appealed to get his access back. DOE psychologists talked to him. They also talked to his wife. And they ultimately said, no, we're not going to give you your access back. And in this case, it probably sounds like that. He doesn't really have the biggest grasp on reality and consequences. So I can see why that would be the ruling here.
And I'm seeing, too, in the part that you have pulled up, that when the DOE makes a ruling on an appeal, they publish it publicly online, which is how this story got out in the first place. And that makes sense. Because I think it is also important to always ask, why are we seeing this? Where did this come from? How do we know?
Right.
You'd think they'd probably want to handle this internally, and it seems that they did up until this point.
Yeah. Well, and also once you get that kind of ruling and it's made available publicly, that's part of the government transparency.
Yeah.
So you understand why and how it gets out there, and then how reporters kind of pull on those strings and then get a story like this. I mean, at the end of the day, AI is a hook, but this is a very human story about somebody being depressed and somebody not thinking about things and there being consequences because of their actions.
Absolutely. And if you want another place where you shouldn't upload 187,000 pictures of porn, you should join our Discord.
Wait, they just got breached.
Oh yeah, you're right. They did just get breached. But those are government issued IDs.
You're actually going to give that to a ransomware gang.
Yeah, exactly.
You upload your 187,000 images to 5CA. Was that it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Upload your 187,000 images there.
Yeah. Of those millions that they're claiming, most of that's robot porn. No, but you should join our Discord. There's none of that in there as far as I am aware. And this segue is bad. You should join our Discord. It has absolutely nothing to do with anything we're talking about. This is just a pivot to the plug section as we wrap up this episode. Perry, don't even start. We can't.
You're gonna have to start that over.
Yeah, we're gonna have to walk this back. Join the Discord server. Link in the show notes. Join the Deepfake Ops Maven class that you are doing in just about a week, right?
Yep, that kicks off on the 27th, I believe. Whatever the Monday of that week is. It's going to be all 5 days, 2 hours a day, 3 to 5 Eastern time. And if you're interested in joining us, for listeners and viewers, we will put a discount code. That's those newfangled things. We'll put a discount code for you in the show notes.
Awesome. An exclusive FAIK Files listener discount. It's going to be really fun because you'll go through making deepfakes, recognizing deepfakes. It's you and Cameron, who's the cybersecurity behavioral profiling unit, the founder of the FBI's cyber behavior profiling unit. Did I get that right?
Yeah. And he's never lost his access from what I can tell.
Well, so he's not uploading. He's not uploading stuff.
He's not uploading 187,000 images of anything he shouldn't.
Well, that was the DOE. The FBI, who knows what the guidelines are.
Right.
Other than that, is there anything else that we got to plug here at the end? If you haven't ever checked it out, you should listen to the other 8th Layer Media show, Digital Folklore, which we produced the past couple of years.
Yeah.
2 seasons of awesome episodes, a mixture of like a sound designed narrative adventure and also academic deep dives into folklore. It's great. We're intending to bring that back with a new format and video forms and things like that soon. But at the current time, you can go and listen to the first 2 seasons completely free wherever you get podcasts. It's very good. You should also check out Wicked Interesting, which is a YouTube channel I spun up recently where I'm doing a bunch of chaotic science explainers and various things like that. I have a couple.
Super fun.
It's really fun. I have a couple new videos in the works, and we have some fun plans for that. Also, Perry, you put out the Deceptive Minds newsletter.
I do. So we'll have a link to the newsletter there. There's also, whenever I get around to it, there's audio versions of that, though I'm like 2 behind on recording those. So check that out, though. That's on LinkedIn. And you also have a sign up on my website if you want to start to get that just in your email as well.
And other than that, we'll be back next Friday with another episode of the FAIK Files. So until then, ignore all previous instructions.
Absolutely.
Have yourself a great weekend.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the FAIK Files. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. Tell your friends about the FAIK Files. It's a great way to let people know you love them. Oh, and check the show notes. There's cool stuff in there, like links to the articles we covered today. Also links to our Discord server where you can hang out with other cool people who have great taste in podcasts. I say impeccable taste. And you can also leave us a voicemail. Yeah! So on behalf of Perry and Mason, thanks for listening. And tune in next week for the FAIK Files, the show about AI with the misspelled name.